Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thanks so much for jumping on. We are going to give it a few minutes for everybody to join and then probably get started right at 11:02-ish. All right, everybody, good morning. Let's go ahead and get things going. Today's webinar will be about our latest updates to the New York School Bus Incentive Program Implementation Manual. On here today is myself. My name is Sophie Patka. I am a project manager on the charging side of the NYSBIP voucher. And soon joining us, we will have Hannah Abdu, who manages our school bus portion of the charging voucher. As per usual, a couple housekeeping items. This webinar will be recorded. Very muffled audio I'm hearing. In the Q&A portion. Thanks for letting me know. Does that sound better? Okay, thanks, Kelly. All right, continuing on, this webinar will be recorded as per usual, and it will be sent to all of the attendees afterwards, as well as a copy of the slides, so you can access any links or information you would like. Additionally, we will also be announcing our next series of webinars in that email as well. So a Q&A will be available at the end of the slides as well. There is a Q&A function here in the webinar where you can drop all of your questions and we will get to them at the end of our presentation. But for now, let's start getting into some of these updates. Next slide. Okay, so the first update that we have to the implementation manual is we added a few definitions, just some for clarifying points and some for new aspects of the program, where I'll go into some more detail on later. So we added a definition of a port to make that more clear. So the port of the chargers is the connection point between the charger and the vehicle where the charger is plugged in. The visiting electric school bus charging voucher. This is a new aspect of the program that we're rolling out to help BOCES districts. We'll go into some more details about this at a later slide, but as a preliminary definition, it is a charging voucher that BOCES purchasers may apply for without initiating an electric school bus purchase for the purpose of charging visiting school districts' electric school buses. Because of the way that BOCES are structured, often pupils are transported from different school districts via their buses over to the BOCES Center. We understand that BOCES often don't have their own fleets, but buses will still need to charge at these facilities. So the motivation behind the visiting electric school bus charging voucher is to allow these districts to apply without a school bus attached to the project. And again, we'll share a little more later. We also added information about the BOCES cap. This is the number of charging ports that the Board Cooperative Educational Services, or BOCES school, can apply for through the charging voucher without purchasing an electric school bus, as long as the chargers are accessible to all of the school districts that are in the area. Next, a modified fleet electrification plan, or FEP. This is a fleet electrification plan that is also specifically applied to BOCES that will be participating in the visiting charging voucher to charge their electric school buses. Next slide. Great. Our next section here clarifies some details on Environmental Protection Agency program stacking with our NYSBIP programs. So we revised our EPA stacking amount language to include other EPA clean school bus programs that are available. So if a school bus operator applies to NYSBIP and is approved and receives an award from either or both EPA's Clean School Bus or Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle program, the NYSBIP voucher amount will be adjusted to the NYSBIP school bus. So the stacking voucher is determined on whether a district is a priority or non-priority, first of all, and then next of all, it's awarded on top of the amount that is already awarded by the EPA program, up to 100% of the average electric school bus price. So what that looks like in process, for those that don't already know, is that you apply for the EPA programs first and apply for our program next, and we supplement any of the additional funding that you did not receive from that program up to 100% of the average electric school bus price. So EPA programs first, and then NYSBIP. Next slide, please. One moment, doing a quick tech check. Hey folks, we're getting a few comments that people are having trouble hearing me, so I'm going to take a quick 1 second to switch headsets, and hopefully that'll solve the problem.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Can someone confirm, either panelists or audience member, if this is better? All right, hearing that it is much better. Excellent. So let's continue on. And if you have any questions about the previous slides and you had trouble hearing me, we can go back to anything at the end during the Q&A function. So next, in our section 2 on scrap buses, we added an exception for a particular scenario when it comes to the scrappage bonus. So as it stands, we have a mileage requirement of 2,500 miles or more in the past 12 months. If a bus to be scrapped can't meet that mileage requirement, then a bus of 10 years or older than the current calendar year and or with an odometer reading of more than 110,000 miles can be scrapped instead to still qualify for that scrappage bonus. Next section, next slide. So we added a new document as well to the fleet certification process to determine the district and sub-district caps. There's a screenshot of this document on the next slide, and I linked it here for when you are reviewing the slides after this webinar. It's also available on our website under the NYSBIP program overview page. But we clarified that the new fleet certification is required to determine the district and sub-district caps. And to remind you all of what the district and sub-district caps are, the district cap is the total amount of school bus vouchers a district may apply for by December 1st, 2025, and that is determined by the size and priority status of the district. And the sub-district cap applies to districts where pupil transportation is applied by more than one party. So caps that apply to all of the different parties that may be providing bus transportation. So this fleet certification document can be filled out to report the amount of buses from each entity that is completing pupil transportation for the school. So this must be completed at the time of the application, and school districts are required to provide information and sign this document even if the purchaser is a third-party operator. Additionally, we adjusted the sub-district cap to be 25% of total funding for New York City, because New York City under the program is considered its own district. Next slide. Thank you so much. This is the fleet certification screenshot. This is what the form looks like. So as you can see, you can fill out the school district and third-party operator name and the number of buses that are servicing the school district from that third-party operator. And then down here, you have signatures from each. And on the next page, there is additional room for additional signatories if necessary. Next slide, please. Great, thank you so much. So we also updated our FEP, or Fleet Electrification Plan requirements. So fleet electrification plans that are not completed by NYSERDA must meet the requirements that are posted on NYSERDA's Fleet Electrification Planning webpage. And additionally, now utility assessments must also include a rate analysis, which summarizes the rates and rebates that are available on the utility side and included in the final cost estimates. The charging strategy will also indicate potential savings associated with the use of a charging management system or a similar load management software. And for those that might be interested in more information about managed charging and charge management, we did a webinar last month about managed charging and some of the details of how that works and what's available. That recording can be found on our website as well as the slides. And we'd be happy to answer any questions about that if you reach out as well. Additionally, cost estimates should also include an assessment of the possible savings with any incentives available at the time of the written report as well. So the rate analysis will also be included in the cost estimates and the phasing plan. Next slide, please. So to go into some more detail about this new aspect of the charging voucher program, this section of our implementation manual rolls out the new visiting electric school bus charger for BOCES. Spoke a little bit about this earlier, but it is a charging voucher that BOCES purchasers may apply for without initiating an electric school bus purchase for the purpose of charging visiting school districts' electric school buses. So again, understanding that BOCES districts don't necessarily have their own fleets, but will need to support pupil transportation. This will allow BOCES districts to install chargers without associating it with an electric school bus project. So some requirements about how this works. The visiting electric school bus chargers do need to be networked. Each BOCES does have a cap of 10 ports, which can be installed at one or more locations. And then each port must be capable of dispensing a minimum of 60 kilowatts. And for multi-port chargers, each one has to be able to simultaneously charge at a minimum of 60 kilowatts per port. Additionally, the BOCES cap is separate from the overall district cap. Next slide, please. Additionally, we added requirements for the modified fleet electrification plan that BOCES applicants must complete to access the visiting electric school bus charging voucher. So the modified fleet electrification plan is focused on assessing the frequency and volume of visiting school buses, the duration of the bus layover on BOCES property, the charging requirements of visiting buses, and the electrical and site upgrades necessary to support the chargers on site. Generally, it's the same requirements as our typical fleet electrification plan, but there may be variations based on the service offerings and the needs of the BOCES purchaser. Next slide, please. Additionally, we extended the final purchase order timeline for dealers. So dealers can submit the final purchase order 9 months after application approval instead of 6 months going forward. Next slide. We also made some updates to the scrap auditing process. So this clarifies that purchasers scrapping a vehicle for the first time should contact NYSERDA to get assigned a scrap auditor, if that wasn't made clear before. So the way this should work is if you are choosing to participate in the scrap bonus, you should reach out to the Voucher Help Center via email, which is NYSBIP@energycenter.org, 1 to 2 months before the intended scrappage date to be paired with one of our scrap auditors. And a scrap auditor will assist the purchaser with both scheduling the scrap event and will also attend the event to monitor for program compliance and collect all of the required documentation. So a purchaser representative must still be present at this event, though, to sign the scrappage attestation. Next slide. And a few more details about the visiting electric school bus charging procedure. So to apply for the new visiting electric school bus charging voucher, when you're going into our application portal in Salesforce, you select that the purchase of chargers is not associated with an electric school bus purchase in the portal, and also submit the modified FEP. Next slide, please. And that is it for our updates to this round of the implementation manual. We can answer any questions that you have now, but additional ones can always be directed to schoolbus@nyserda.newyork.gov.
Thank you, Sophie. So now we'll open it up for Q&A. So if you have any questions about these changes, please feel free to throw them into the chat. We have not received any questions so far, so we'll wait, maybe five minutes or so. So please feel free to ask any questions you want. And yeah, we'll just wait a couple minutes for questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, I see. So we do have one question. Were there any changes to the funding amounts, and are FEPs required at the time of application? I can go ahead and answer the first question. We did not change any of the funding amounts. They are all the same. So for both the school bus and the charging voucher, those amounts remain the same, as well as for the EPA stacking amount on the bus side. Those amounts are the $50,000 for non-priority districts and $100,000 for EPA priority districts. And then, Sophie, do you want to answer the question about are FEPs required at the time of application?
FEPs are not required at the time of application. So the way it works for the charging voucher and the visiting charging voucher is you apply for the charging voucher in the portal, and all you need at that time is the charging infrastructure purchase agreement and a third-party operator addendum if you are using a third party. And then we pre-approve your application from there. And then after pre-approval, you have 6 months to complete your fleet electrification plan. And if you're not completing a fleet electrification plan, you have 60 days to submit your charging information. So from pre-approval, you submit the information on all the chargers, all the different types of chargers you'll be installing, and then also your fleet electrification plan will be submitted 6 months after that pre-approval date.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophie. The next question in the chat is, can you explain what is meant by networking the charging stations? Sophie, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, so networking the charging stations basically means you are connecting it to the internet for both data sharing purposes, for monitoring utilization. We recommend that you do network your chargers in order to comply with reporting requirements. It's much easier. While it's not required, it is easier to be able to access the charging data via an online portal than to have to extract it manually from the charger. So connecting the chargers to an online portal is what networking means. And sometimes the network is the same company as the charging manufacturer, but sometimes you may choose to use a different network service provider that is compatible with your chargers as well.
We got another question about voucher amounts, caps for contractors or school districts, or stacking voucher amounts, and if any of them have changed. So again, the voucher amounts all remain the same, as well as the stacking voucher amounts. The only cap that has changed is the New York City school district cap. New York City will get 25% of the funding. That's their allocation and their cap. So that is spread out among all of New York City's different contractors. It is a first come, first serve program. So, but yeah, and New York City is getting capped at 25% of the funds. Okay, do the changes take effect retroactively? So most of these changes are going to take effect as of yesterday, when the implementation manual came out. The one rule that will be retroactive is the final purchase order deadline change. So that 9-month time period that will apply to all districts, or sorry, all applications. But otherwise, all the new rules will apply moving forward and not retroactively. You are subject to the rules of the implementation manual version that is available at the time that you apply. So, like I said, other than the final purchase order, that date, that's effective for all applications. Otherwise, all the other rules will be for applications moving forward. Okay. The next question we got, my fleet electrification plan was already completed. How do I now go back to the vendor and add additional items to this, like the utility assessment? So I guess it's going to depend on how you did your electrification plan. If you did your electrification plan through NYSBIP, your plan should already include a utility assessment. Generally, we have found that electrification plans that have been done outside of NYSBIP may not have, used the same scope as those that go through NYSBIP. A utility assessment is pretty standard because you have to know how much power is currently at your site, as well as how much power you will need moving forward. So I would say specifically that utility assessment has always been part of the electrification plan requirements. But I would also say feel free to reach out to us and we can assess the fleet electrification plan you have and come up with a solution to move you forward. So that is how I would answer, that's how I answer that question / just like generally speaking. Yeah. Okay. The next question, are buses awarded under TVIP counted towards the district caps for NYSBIP? They are not. They're not. They're two separate programs. So the caps for this program are separate from those vehicles that were purchased through truck voucher. Okay. Next question, where can I see the implementation manual? So that is located on our website. If you go to NYSBIP.ny.gov and just search school bus, or you just go into Google and type NYSBIP school bus, it will take you to our webpage, and our program page has all of the documents that you need to utilize the program. So that includes the implementation manual, the new fleet certification form, as well as all the other program documents. Those are all available on our website. Okay, another question. Dealers are eligible for EPA funding, NYSBIP bus vouchers, but not the NYSBIP charging vouchers. This has resulted in a lot of confusion from applicants, especially school districts who don't have a budget for such purchases, even if they net out zero. Has there been any consideration to let dealers apply for the NYSBIP vouchers? Okay, so I think this question touches okay, yeah, dealers are eligible. So it's not that the dealers are eligible for the funding, but they are able to apply on behalf of school districts and third-party operators, specifically for the school bus side. This is a functionality that we are currently working on. It is in process. We are hoping to have that functionality available Q1 of the new year, where basically a school district will be able to add contacts to their charging voucher portal account to enable dealers who have been working with school districts, or maybe, you know, the superintendent started the application, but they have someone other than them who they want to go in there and complete or fill out any other information. That functionality will be available. It is in the works. I know we've been getting a lot of questions asking for this. So yeah, it is in the works. I'm just gonna reread this question one more time. I just want to make sure I'm answering everything. Yeah. Yeah, I think the question is mainly, and in a lot of the other programs, including the school bus side, it is the dealer who is applying on behalf of the district. And so the dealer is the one passing the discount on, and then the entity running the program reimburses the dealer. That is a different process than for our charging voucher. Our charging voucher must be applied for by the school district or the third-party operator. But again, the functionality to add users, including your dealer, are coming down the pipeline. Okay. The next question, if an applicant provides an electrification plan after the applicant has applied for chargers and been reviewed and approved, but has not requested funds yet, will the voucher amounts be updated? And what is the process to get the portal updated? So we will not retroactively, once your application is approved, we will not retroactively increase your voucher amount if you qualify for the fleet electrification bonus later on. Rather, you can apply for those chargers without the FEP plan. You can get those chargers. You'll get the 25K or 35K per bus amount. And then once you have completed your FEP plan, moving forward, those chargers will then qualify for the electrification plan bonus. But we won't be retroactively adding more money to approved applications without an FEP. Okay, next question, is the implementation manual marked where there are changes? So the implementation manual itself is not marked up. However, on our website, you can find the implementation manual as well as a document called Summary of Changes. That document, it's basically similar to what we presented to you today in the PowerPoint. It will show you exactly the sections that we changed and what we changed generally. So it should be easy to go in and pick out or find the areas where there's new materials. Okay, is an EAAS eligible to apply for school districts or their contractor? I don't actually know what that stands for. Do you know what that means, Sophie? Sorry.
Off the top of my head, I do not. Yeah, so if that person can clarify in the chat what that means, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Next question is it's the purchaser of record that is of interest. Can the dealer buy the equipment and be reimbursed? At this time, no, because the dealer would not be the owning entity. So for the charging voucher, the entity that is going to own the charging equipment, whether that's a third-party operator or a school district, they must be the ones to apply.
And Hannah, I'm seeing that EAAS means electrification as a service. So yeah, as of right now, electrification as a service entities are not eligible to apply on behalf of NYSBIP. But Hannah, do you want to add any more details to that, what that's looking like?
Yeah. So third part third party contractors, so those who are providing transportation to the school district, they're eligible. Electrification as a service providers such as Highland, for example, at this time they are not eligible to apply. Because they're not eligible to apply. Specifically, Highland, for example, they have not received a designation from SED about whether or not their contract will work in New York State or how it will be classified. So until that determination has been made, electrification as a service providers are not eligible for the program at this time. Joe, I definitely I hear you with your thoughts about reimbursements in general and how that is difficult for school districts. For those who didn't see the question or couldn't see the question in the chat, basically it's explaining that school districts have a hard time with reimbursements because of the voting cycle, as well as, basically they have to get funds approved upfront by the voters, but then a reimbursement actually lowers that amount, but that money, the overall total still needs to be approved by voters. We definitely hear you and appreciate the feedback. Unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but this is how the program is currently being run. But we take your feedback into account, and that's all I can say about that. Okay, another question. If you're a contractor and your school district customer is not willing to sign off or apply, can we apply on their behalf to use in their school district? I'm finding some of our districts are not open to electric buses, but because of the mandates, we want to get the vehicles. That is a great question. At this time, the answer is no. We do have to have the school district sign off. That's regardless. So even beyond the fleet certification, we do have a third-party operator addendum that must be signed by the third-party operator and the school district so that the school district is aware that the contractor is applying for buses on their behalf. This really comes into play with the caps. Each district is allotted, vehicle caps. And if third-party contractors are applying for buses for that school district, that does affect that school district's cap. So it's not only important that the school district generally know that their third-party operator is buying buses for them, but also for us to calculate the caps, we also need verification from the school district that the number of buses that have been stated are correct, and that's how we determine those caps. Okay, next question. If a bus is awarded under the Clean School Bus Program and NYSBIP, which guidelines are to be followed for scrappage requirements? So if you are choosing to stack both your Clean School Bus Grant and your NYSBIP grant, you will qualify for the NYSBIP stacking amount, which is the $50,000 or the $100,000, depending on your EPA priority district status. So because of that, there is no scrappage bonus for NYSBIP because you just are automatically getting that stacking bonus amount. So, you can just scrap for a Clean School Bus. You don't have to worry about NYSBIP if you are doing both. If you're only doing NYSBIP and you don't have a Clean School Bus grant, you'll have to follow the scrappage requirements outlined in our implementation manual. Okay, the new implementation manual has a new required document, the fleet certification. Please explain in detail what's needed. If we could go back to that fleet electrification the fleet certification page.
I believe it's slide 5, Kelly.
Thank you. Okay, so the fleet certification, again, this is to help us determine the caps for the school bus side. So it's pretty simple. You basically fill out this table. So at the top, it's the fleet-wide summary. So it starts with just the school district. You'll put the name of the school district as well as any third-party operators that the school district works with. So the key here is really that the school district needs to be involved in filling out this certification form because they're the ones who are going to know if there are multiple third-party operators. So they'll list those operators in the school district and then the number of buses that serve the school district. So for the third-party operators, this is not your total fleet number. Rather, it is the number of buses that you utilize to service that specific school district. So you just need that information. And then at the bottom, you get signatures from each, from the school district representative, as well as a representative from each of the third-party operators. And that is it. That is all you need for that document. It only really needs to be submitted for a school district once, because it should include all of the third-party operators, and that will determine that school district and the sub-district caps moving forward. It's also important to have the school district involved because as the sub-district cap calculation, there's some nuance to it that we've explained in earlier webinars. But at some point, you know, sometimes the sub-district caps, when combined, may equal more than the overall district cap. And in those cases, the school district is the one who decides the allocation of buses per contractor. So again, that's really why we need the school district involved and why we have the certification. We have been asking applicants as they come in for their fleet numbers. So this isn't really asking for a lot of new information. Rather, we're just formalizing this process. Okay. Next question. Is there anything marketing wise or someone we can refer, I'm assuming districts to make sure they're aware of the mandates? Some of them are afraid it will cost them money down the road. I have one district that is not willing to sign. Yeah, we're happy to set up time to talk with your school district. Please feel free to reach out to us, either the Voucher Help Center, or you can reach out to the school bus email or Sophie or I directly, and we can help you out. We have a whole team of people. We meet with districts a lot. We have many conversations with districts, try to explain to them the benefits of electric buses, why it matters, how this will help them. So we're definitely willing to help you, you know, kind of convince your district who's not willing to sign. Okay, where's the third-party addendum for the FEP located? Is it in the application? So I think there's a couple, there's two separate kind of questions here. So there's a third-party operator addendum that is for the both applications. So either the school bus or the charging voucher application. If you're a third party applying for buses on behalf or for a district, you have to have a third-party operator addendum signed. The FEP is its own separate thing. That an FEP is essentially a report that's generated by a contractor, whether you get your FEP done through NYSBIP or out on your own. That is separate. However, for both, I guess, well, I'll start with the third-party operator addendum. That can be found again on the NYSBIP website. Again, we have all of our documents, all the required documents that you need is located on that website. For the FEP, for FEP information, we have another website, but if you go to our electric school bus page, you can then be directed to our technical assistance service. And this is the program that we do to actually get these FEPs completed. And on that FEP website, you can find out all the requirements, all the details. You can find different engineering firms if you want to start working on one. If you have other questions about the FEP, we are happy to schedule time with you or the school district or the operator to walk you through the FEP process. Okay, next question. Oh, what do we do if the voters vote the electric buses down in the budget? It's a really great question, and I wish I had a good answer, and I wish I had a real answer for you, because the reality is I don't have an answer for you right now. We do have outreach services that we provide. So if you have a school budget vote coming up and you want some assistance getting the word out, trying to get the truthful information out there, we can help you. We work very closely with WRI and some other grassroots organizations and we can provide you material. We can partner you with WRI, who can help you sort of create a case or get out to the public and try to, sway their opinions. But unfortunately, my answer is I guess the answer, if they vote it down, is to try again. I wish I had a better answer for that, unfortunately. The next question, does the implementation manual include information for both buses and chargers? Yes, both programs are wrapped up into the implementation manual. It's a longer document. It's about 55 pages, but again, it's all broken out into specific sections, so it should be relatively easy to get through. But yeah, that's all. Both programs are within those same implementation manual, or both parts of the program are in the implementation manual. Okay. The next question, fleet certification document. If you have more than 5 operators, should you apply with multiple sheets or ask for a sheet with more options? That's a great question. That's a good question. I would say you could do either. We'll take either, just as long as the school district signs off. That will be fine. If you reach out to us, we can definitely get you a sheet with more options. Otherwise, you can either print multiple fleet certification documents, or you can just simply add names and signatures to the sheet itself. So I would say whatever is easier for you, but more than happy if you reach out to us, we can provide you with some more slots. Okay, the next question. If a scrappage bonus was approved for an application prior to the July 1st, 2024 deadline, and the district also has an EPA award, which scrappage process is to be followed, EPA or NYSBIP? So for that question, if the application was submitted before July 1st, those applications are eligible for the full NYSBIP amount, which means they can qualify for the scrappage bonus. But that does mean that you will need to submit documentation for scrappage for both EPA and for NYSBIP. Now, NYSBIP's scrappage requirements are pretty simple. So it shouldn't be more effort beyond what is being collected for EPA. We do have obviously our scrappage attestation, and we require a couple pictures, but I am pretty sure that's aligned with EPA. So, just to summarize that again, if you applied before July 1st, 2024, and you are stacking with both EPA and NYSBIP, you can qualify for the scrappage bonus, but you must submit all the scrappage documentation for both programs. Okay. How many buses can we apply for on each application? So I believe the application is maxed out at 25 buses. So that's the max amount you could apply for in one application. However, how many you can apply for is going to depend on your fleet size. So for example, if your fleet size is only 10 buses and you try to apply for 12, that will not work. Your cap you've maxed out your cap. So you can apply for up to 25 in one single application, but again, it's going to be based on your cap. Next question, how much funding is remaining for NYSBIP? That is a great question. So in total, there's $500 million. 300 million of the 500 million is currently available. And of the 300 million, we have committed about 87 million. So right now there is about $213 million available, with another 200 million that will be, put into the program as time goes on. So all that's to say, plenty of money is still available. So we definitely encourage people to get their applications in. Next question. Do you foresee additional funding for NYSBIP to be approved? Another really good question. I don't know at this time. The funding that this program is funded through Bond Act funds, which was voted on in 2022 by New Yorkers. So at this time, that is all the money that is available. I don't know if there will be more funding. I am hoping that is the case. We do know how big this transition is and how much we know that it's going to cost a lot of money, but at this time for NYSBIP, I don't know of any additional funding coming down the pipeline. Not to say that there won't be, but at this time there is none. Okay, next question. How long after applying can we know if we'll get approved, and how many buses is our district eligible for? So you can determine how many buses your district is eligible for by reviewing the district cap numbers in the implementation manual. I believe it's for non-priority districts, I think it's 6% of your fleet or 6 buses, whichever is larger. And if you're a priority district, it's 10% of your fleet or 10 buses. I think I'm getting those numbers correct. So relatively easy to kind of figure out, especially if you're a smaller district. If you have a lot of contractors, that's where the sub-district cap kind of comes in, and that probably requires a longer explanation with an example, which our implementation manual does provide some details on that. In terms of application approval, we give a general timeline of 2 to 4 weeks from once you submit your application to get approved. It is dependent on how good the application is, in that all the information is correct. If you're scrapping, all that scrap bus information is correct and meets the requirements. So yeah, I'd say 2 to 4 weeks to get approved. And that's for both the bus side and the charging side. Okay, next question. Do we decide how much of the voucher amount to split between busing and chargers? So our program works differently from EPA. I know the EPA program, they kind of give you a lump sum, and then you can spend up to a certain percentage or a certain amount of money on the charging side. For our program, we have kept both sides, the bus and the charging, separate, so that it's just a bit clearer, delineating what the funds can be used for. And additionally, it gives districts flexibility. So for example, if you were awarded EPA, round 1 or round 2, you may not be able to apply for those buses for NYSBIP. However, you can still apply for chargers for those buses. So we wanted to give districts flexibility. If for some reason they've bought buses without NYSBIP's help or whatever, they could still access the charging. So the voucher amounts are based on which voucher you are applying for. The school bus voucher ranges depending on which type of bus you get, and then which bonuses you apply for. And then the charging side is, if you don't have an FEP, it's $25,000 per bus for non-priority and $35,000 per bus for priority districts. And if you do have an FEP, you get an additional $30,000 on top of either the 25 or 35, depending on your priority district status. And that's on a per bus basis. So long story short, no, you don't get to decide how to use those funds to like split between, but because the vouchers are separate from each other. Okay. Next question, if we approved with EPA for donation and then we apply for NYSERDA for scrappage, do we have to go back to the EPA and submit for scrappage? I guess I'm not entirely sure if I understand the question. I'm pretty sure EPA's program scrappage is a requirement. So you have to scrap. And then if you're applying today, if you are stacking between NYSBIP and the Clean School Bus Program, you will qualify for the NYSBIP, the EPA stacking amount from NYSBIP, which is again that $50,000 or $100,000. And if you are stacking, you do not need to submit scrappage information to us. But again, I'm pretty sure the EPA program requires scrappage. But if I'm understanding the question correctly, if for some reason you don't have to scrap for EPA, that's totally fine. Either way, if you are stacking with an EPA voucher, you will get the NYSBIP EPA stacking amount, and you do not have to apply for scrappage. Okay, that was all the questions. I'll wait a couple minutes in case we get any other questions. These were all really great questions. Really appreciate everybody being engaged and bringing these questions up. It's very important. All of this work is pretty convoluted, and so anything we can do to make the process easier to understand or answer your questions, we're happy to do so. All right. Sophie and I will hang on for a couple more minutes, but otherwise, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you. Happy holidays, happy new year. Looking forward to more school bus stuff in the new year. We do have another webinar happening in January. Again, you can visit our website and get registered for that. We will also be posting this webinar along with the slides onto our website, and so you can review them at any time. We'll probably get this video recording up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I did get one more question coming in the chat. Is there any additional grassroots organizations which support like WRI? We know we've been working with some others at the League of Conservation Voters, as well as a couple other grassroots organizations that I am blanking on the names. But yes, we do work with other grassroots organizations, and we are working with more and more as time goes on. So if you want to reach out to us, we can put you in contact with some of those folks and get you the help you need to put the word out and try to help persuade some voters who may not be open or as open to electrification. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in the chat. So again, thank you everyone. Take care. If you have any other follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to answer them. We are happy to get on calls. We're happy to talk to school districts. You name it. We really do it all. We are here to support you all through this process. So again, feel free to reach out to us, and thank you again for the time, and we will see you all in the new year.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.